Welcome to the Bridge of Truth. We're going to be talking about life after death and the evidence for it based on near-death experiences. I have two guests waiting in the wings: Vince Martell, lead guitarist of the legendary rock group Vanilla Fudge, and his wife Peg Pearl, an excellent vocalist and songwriter in her own right. They'll be up shortly, but I'm beginning today with my good friend Joey Brennan, and it's especially meaningful for me to have him here today. He was the guest on my second show, and we talked that day about Christian addiction recovery and education. That's a program that Joe established to help people. It's a Christian-based,
absolutely
12-step group. And we also had a chance to talk about his connection with my next guest, who Vince. Joe was the drummer for the Pigeons, which was the band that would eventually become Vanilla Fudge. And at that on that show, we also had the opportunity to talk about Joe's experience with Christian ministry and the time that he had ministering to Son of Sam in prison. So listen, I encourage my viewers and people seeing this later on YouTube to please check that show. It's a fascinating show. And but today, we're going to be talking about something a little different, and the genesis for this happened on New Year's. Joe and I and Vinny and Peg we were doing a show for New Year's Eve, and we're backstage and we're talking, and Joe's talking about an experience that he had where he died on the operating table, and this was something that I had never heard, and Vinny, I think, was also pretty shocked by it, and it seemed like a wonderful topic for us to then bring to the Bridge of Truth and get it out on the internet. So I welcome Joey Brennan to the show today.
Well, thank you, Al. I'm glad to be here.
Joe, just take a few minutes to get us caught up with what's been happening since the last time.
Let's see. Since the last time that we talked, we talked about numerous things. We talked about care. We talked about the prison ministry. We talked to music. We spoke about different bands. What was happening at the Fireside Theater, which we created.
Yeah, you hadn't even done the Fireside, I don't think.
No, we hadn't started the Fireside.
So, man, why don't you let people know about that? Because I know you're going to be bringing it up again.
Sure.
In the spring.
Yeah, well, Fireside Theater is basically created to be able to present the arts of all nature, art, music, literature, whatever it may be, nonprofit, open, free. They just call me and we take a look at it and find a time to get them on. And it is at the Christian Community Church in 340 Bogart Road, River Edge, New Jersey. And you've played there 3 or 4 times, so you know that. And let's see, I was working with Sarah Rice, a Broadway actress from Sweeney Todd and her Super Cabaret act, and she's been there a few times. Vince Martell's been there. Numerous acts have been there, and
you're also holding care there now as well.
I hold care there as well. Yes, Christian addiction recovery and education.
Yeah, because I want people to be aware of.
It's Christ-centered 12-step program.
A lot of things have changed, and including the address of where you were.
Oh yeah, it has. Yeah.
So please check that out. Joe is coming from experience, and if you need that sort of help, he's definitely a person who can do that.
Also I had that that glitch, an interlude, small interlude, but a bit serious for me, which was my 6-month vacation there from I had a slight heart attack and then throat cancer. So
yeah, I mean, Joe talks about it cavalierly, but it's remarkable that he got through that in the way that he did, and I think his survival through that is partly what brought about the discussion of the near-death experience that he had, because that happened at a point in his life where he was really in a very, very different direction spiritually and physically than where he is now. So, Joe, why don't we pick up at that point and explain what was going on and lead us into that moment where you really did. You were dead on the operating table.
Well, yeah, and the reports are there. You know, you can go check it. It happened in Hudson County. At that time, I was severely addicted to heroin. And
what year was this, Joe?
This was in '77. A long time ago. Doesn't seem that long for me, but you know, quite a while ago, because I've been clean and sober for like 31 years. You know, so it was a period, very confusing time. I had come off the road musically from playing full time. I was living in, come back from California. I was living in Hudson County, and I had. It was alcohol. Technically, I'm dual addicted. You know, I was alcoholic, drug addict, and I actually OD'd on heroin, and I was picked up and brought to the hospital, and I did not know what was going on because while I was out, I was like in this other realm, this other world. And I knew who I was. I could think really clearly. I just was not understanding what was happening. I just couldn't. I didn't know what was going on because there was no other people there.
So, in other words, at this point, you're saying you were already dead. What you're describing now.
Yeah,
you were brought into the hospital, and
because like the what happened was after I finally did come to, they finally saved me and brought me about. Nurses and the doctors had told me that I had flatlined.
Yeah.
So they weren't getting any response. And one of the emergency room nurses who had been there for 15 years, she was asking me what exactly I had in my system. And I told her, you know, what I had done. And she said, well, you know, when you came in, I did, you had that look of the dead person that we have.
That's amazing.
And she said, you know, the ashen look. She goes, so I said, well, this one's gone. And I've seen this happen before, she said. But she said, I want you to thank, this one Oriental doctor who was there who worked on me. She said, I want you to thank that doctor over there because he worked so hard to save your life.
Extraordinary.
You know? Amazing.
So what exactly did you experience then in that moment when you weren't part of this world?
Well, yeah, I'll tell you. What I experienced was, I guess I got to get a bit technical here. Actually, I injected the heroin, and I didn't know how strong the bag was, the heroin, the amount I had. And it was the usual amount that I would get. Sometimes I would get extra bags, you know, so I would have enough for 2 days. And because I was addicted at the time, I had a heroin habit. Right. So what happened was I injected heroin, and I don't remember even getting the needle out of my arm. I just was out. Okay, now time stopped at that point because I had no reference point of like, you know, seeing myself on the floor or anything like that. Right. I just was in this area with this like tunnel. But it wasn't dark. It was like, and there was no bright lights. It was almost like I was in like a large boys' club bathroom or something. It had seemed like tile walls. It was, and I tried to touch the walls, and it looked like they were only like 5 or 6 feet away. But then they shot back like 10,000 miles. You know, it just went.
So it kept expanding as you were trying to contact.
Thank you. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. That was it. And then I started thinking, like, where am I? Did I take something and I'm just like kind of lost in this, whatever, maybe there was something in the heroin, you know? And then because I knew I had done drugs, but I said, where am I? I didn't know where I was. Right. It was just unbelievable. Now, I wasn't high when I was there. I mean, I was like as coherent and as clean and sober as I am right now, talking to you.
So, you were describing this tunnel, and it wasn't, I guess, what we've heard many times, the tunnel with the light, and you know, you're going into the light. What did it feel like? Did you encounter any beings there?
What it felt like was I started checking myself out. Actually floating in there. I was like suspended. There was no visible support around me, and so you got to see it's big, it's round like that. I'm in the middle, and I'm like right in here in this tunnel, floating in this tunnel thing, and I'm trying to figure out where I am, what happened, what was going on.
Right.
Then, while I'm trying to figure that out, and there's no sense of time. There's no sense of time. That's what was so unusual about it. So now what happens is I start moving downward. You know, a lot of people talk about going into the light.
Right. This is what I
No, that wasn't happening. That wasn't happening. I was going down. And as I went down, I went, like, what in the world is going on here? Went down, kept going down, kept going down. Then I got a tremendous sense of fear, an overwhelming, tremendous sense of fear. And at that point, I said, "Oh my God, this is not good. I mean, this is not good."
What do you feel the fear was from? Was it because you just didn't know what was happening to you, or was it something else, like a dread because you're going someplace bad?
Excellent. It was like that. Yeah, it was a sense of dread, and I'm saying, why is this sense of dread? Because at that time I had no spiritual belief whatsoever. None whatsoever.
Really?
I would have been. I wouldn't call myself an atheist. I was just a heathen of the fields, so to speak, to use like an Irish term. I was just devoid of any spiritual understanding or any quest for a higher life or anything. I was basically sex, drugs, and rock and roll, and that was it, and it was good enough for me. One day at a time, you know.
And as we talked on the first show that we did, Joe was living. You were out in San Francisco. At
Yeah.
So he was part of that lifestyle. I mean, if you've seen any of the stories about Janis Joplin or Jimi Hendrix or Jim Morrison, I mean, Joe is another person that went through that and somehow managed to stay here.
Yeah.
To serve a greater purpose. I'm sure he would feel that way, but
yeah.
So it was very much like that. That was the lifestyle.
Absolutely. Yeah, I lived in a artist community in Sausalito and houseboats, and it was pretty riotous, and just free form lifestyle, and I just played music for a living. That was it. You know, I could go into all the groups and everything, but that's too boring. The real subject.
So you're going down into this place, and you're filled with dread. What happened then?
At that point, it got worse. The fear intensified. And then I was going into darkness. And that was absolutely terrifying. And as I went into this darkness, it just looked like, I know in the Bible it talks, Jesus talked about a place outside of Jerusalem where they burnt the garbage. And that's what it looked like.
Wow.
That's what it looked like, you know. And
I mean, was it smoke and fire or just black?
Yeah, it was like smoldering. You know, it was coming to the beginning of something, some like really unpleasant place, really very, very bad. And some people might say, well, you know, that's probably some subconscious stuff that you had from your childhood or something. No, because I was in this other realm, you know.
Wow.
Yeah.
So now, how long did it get worse, or at this point are you being brought back?
It got so bad as I moved closer to this that if I could have had a heart attack, a massive heart attack, I would have had it. It was that fearsome.
You mean if you weren't already dead, this would have made you dead?
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. You got that right. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. That was what was going on.
And was it because you felt something about your life wasn't correct, and that's what you were dealing with? Was there any kind of life review that was going on?
I didn't think about that. All I knew is that, like, I wanted out of there.
Yeah, okay.
Like, I wanted all of this to stop. It was like, how is this going to stop? Like, I had no means, no way, no one to call out to, nothing. It was just this total separation from any kind of love, any kind of human touch, or it was just this horrible place.
Wow,
that's
that's
what
incredible.
it was. Yeah.
So now, how did you come out of it? What happened?
What happened was, it's interesting because, as they say, the last thing that goes on a person when they're dying is their hearing. Well, that was the first thing that came back to me. That was the first thing that came back to me, was my hearing. So I could not see, but I could hear, and I could hear people talking and people frantically were working on me. And
so all that time, no connection whatsoever to where your body was.
Right.
And now all of a sudden it's coming back.
Right. I had no idea where I was. And so now, like, this noise was coming back. And, you know, I felt that I was now in the atmosphere that I had left. Like, you know, this atmosphere here, like in this room, is an earthly atmosphere. And, like, I then understood and that was reassuring. That was reassuring. And then what happened was that slowly my eyesight started coming. And, of course, I was laying on an emergency room table. And first thing I remember was these lights. Well, it was one huge light, which was over the table. And I thought, is this something going back into the tunnel again or what have you? And then I said, no, it's not. It's not. It's like a real electrical light. I must be back. I must be back home again. And then when I opened my eyes and it was kind of hazy, then I realized I was IV'd. I was strapped in. I had, you know, air tubes in my nose, and they didn't want me moving, and they were trying to talk to me. So that was where I was at that point.
Right. So next day, how did you feel? Did you feel it immediately, like you had to make a change in your life, or?
You know, I was such a stubborn individual, and I was so lost into the world of drugs and alcohol that I actually got out of that emergency room, and I had to make this report. The police wanted to talk to me because they wanted to know if I had seen some character that they were looking for, and look at some mugshots and stuff.
Wow.
And I knew these two detectives, and I had done that. And, you know, it was like, at that point, it's hard to believe, but the power of addiction, it was like, okay, this thing happened to me. I'll be more careful the next time.
Wow.
So I just went back out and started using it again. And
So
I don't
it's
say that.
amazing.
I don't say that arrogantly or anything. That's how strong the addiction was. Yeah.
That's amazing. And actually, I've heard this happen with some of the other rock stars or other people from that time who were even not in necessarily the rock field, but people who, with that addiction, they just keep doing it.
Yes.
One too many times.
Yeah.
And you're fortunately. So then when did you finally say enough is enough?
Well, I became sick and tired of being sick and tired because I was doing the same thing over and over again without any results, which is technically insanity. At that point, it was around beginning of 1978, after numerous rehabs and so on and so forth. I decided that, well, I think life and my financial situation, living situation, and everything else added to that, and life was pretty miserable. And I was begging for a change, and I just cried out to God. I said, either, kill me or cure me. Kill me or cure me, because we got to do something about this,
So at some point, because you described yourself as a heathen, basically.
Yeah.
At some point, you did kind of sense that perhaps there was a higher power.
Absolutely. And how that happened was actually, I met some people, and they started taking me to, AA meetings and NA meetings, and they were talking about a higher power.
So it's kind of like you were going through an intervention. People were coming in and trying to fix you up.
Well, yeah. Well, actually, yeah. In a sense, I met them. I met one guy at a rehab who was a counselor, and I met some of his friends, so on and so forth. And they took me to meetings. They had compassion on me, and at that point, I met people who had 2 years sobriety, 5 years, which is just amazing to me. I just said, "Oh my God! How can anyone do that?" And they were using things like little slogans like "one day at a time, easy does it,"
Right, sure.
"turn it over," and their higher power. And I'm like, who is this higher power? And that's what started my spiritual quest. Right. Because I was able to calm down, like it says in Scripture, "Be still and know He's God." So that was a wonderful thing, a good starting point for me.
Well, what I'm going to do now, because we have my other guests ready to go,
Sure.
this is a great place for us to stop. I'm going to pause.
Yeah, I'm feeling good right now. I'm getting lucid. You know, that's the whole thing.
Well,
you know?
we're going to bring Vince Martell on. You guys have history, and I had the pleasure of meeting Vince and Peg about, I guess it must be 7 years now that we did our first recording together.
Yeah.
And they're going to be coming on. So I encourage viewers, if you're watching, we have a chat. Just click on the link below the screen on the Now Playing page on the Bridge of Truth, and you can sign in there. It's very simple. Just put in a name and the code. And if you have a question for Joe or Vince or Peg, please text it in. We'll be able to see it here. And we'll try to get to them, if possible, during the show. So just hold on for a few minutes. We'll be right back. Okay, we're back. We got things rearranged over here. And between Joe and myself is Vince Martell, lead guitarist from Vanilla Fudge, a legendary rock band. And I got to meet Vince midnight 2007, something around there, I guess, when we did that recording. They needed a bass player to work on one of their tracks, and I knew Joe at that point. And so I got to know Vince as a musician. He's an incredible musician. But it wasn't until a while after that I got to understand his spiritual side, and I was actually pretty amazed by this. Vince and his wife Peg had a show on local radio. It was also on the internet, called Perspectives, and I was amazed by Vince's commitment to making people aware of his spiritual truth. I mean, and you would not think that somebody in his position would want to do that. That would want to, perhaps get in the way of his career, or put a message out that would interfere with that. But quite to the contrary, he was very, very committed to spreading his message. And Perspectives was a show about the afterlife. So Vince, how did you get to that point where you wanted to do that? Has this been a passion all of your life?
No, not really. Actually, first of all, thanks for having us here. Thanks for having me.
I'm so thrilled that you made the trip. It's just incredible that you came up.
Thank you very much. I know you asked us for a while, and it's a pleasure to always be doing anything with Joey Brennan. These guys are class act, man.
The feeling is mutual, most definitely.
Well, really. And that's why we're still working today. And if I may tell everybody, this guy's a good bass player.
All right,
very good.
Very good, very good.
Hopefully with this we'll broadcast some gigs.
But, thanks. So now what happened is I like to get involved with anything creative. That's where I'm at. So besides playing and rocking and all this kind of stuff, I decided a while back when I lived upstate New York to get into cable TV. A friend of mine, an ex-police officer, now retired detective, John Girolamo, great guy, helps out kids, man, and just really terrific guy. He invited me on his show, and I did his TV show, and he, of course, was all about Vanilla Fudge and this and that, and they liked it so much, everything went so nice that I became like a regular on the show. I was on the show, I started getting on a regular. That developed into being offered if I wanted to have my own show, and his crew said they would be my crew. So I figured, okay, cool. I got people to run the cameras, a director, a producer, an editor. So we did it. So I ended up starting out like that, and I got this whole TV show thing going, and it was a lot of fun. I had a beautiful Christmas show. I got all these people out of the woodwork that are talented, that nobody ever hears about, who sang in church and who's doing a day job and whatever else is cooking for them. And we got them on a Christmas show. We had one lady, Gloria Gibson. I used to have a TV show, cable show, with a little dog, her dog, and she was on. We had her on, and I'm telling you, we had like it ended up. We did all these Christian tunes. We did a sing along. Had the microphone, the guitar, and everybody sang. And it was just me with the guitar, and the mic picked everybody up. And it was just a beautiful thing. And then I got into rock friends of mine. I had them come on the shows, and then I got into with the veterans. I'm a vet. I was in the Navy and the Cuban crisis, if I may say, and proud to be the U.S. This is the P. What do you call
POW?
it? Yeah, POWs. Proud to have that, and of course the Stars and Stripes. Best country in the world, everybody. We got freedom. Everybody wants it. We got it here. Don't lose it. follow politics, get involved. You got to get involved. That's one of the problems. People don't get involved for whatever reason, and then things start happening that shouldn't be happening.
Well, you could see Vince speaks his mind, and that's one of the things that I really admired about he and Peg. So then, you were already a spiritual guy. You were already
Oh yeah, I've
Christian.
always been Christian. I love the Lord. I love Jesus. I have my crucifix on over here. I feel that you have to thank the good Lord for every single thing that you got, and I don't care even if things are rough for you. If you have a mind and you can think, and you had good times when you were a kid, or bad times or whatever, these are all gifts. The Lord didn't have to make nobody. He don't need none of us. He decided in all his love to bring everybody in, humanity through the centuries, animals, plants, air to breathe, food to eat, sleep, and everything is a beautiful, wonderful gift. And nobody gets, it's not a perfect world. Some people are good people and get a rough time. Some people are lousy and have it made. Don't worry about that. The whole idea is get ready for the next level, as Joey experienced. It's coming around. And either there's the light and you're going towards a fantastic thing that it says in the Bible, the eye hasn't seen, the ear hasn't heard, nor has it entered into the heart of man the promises that God has for those who believe. I think that's 1 Corinthians 2, chapter 9, something like that. And that's what's going on. Or you go into, unfortunately, what Joey experienced, but now look at how he turned around for good. And this guy's Mr. Inspiration, thanks to him. Absolutely. I'm strongly into Lord more so than I would have been, but following his example. Because I knew Joey before, and yes, he was a wild, crazy guy.
I'm sure
and
you were too.
No baloney to be nice about it, or for anybody either. I mean, this guy wasn't afraid of nothing, nobody, no place. I'm trying to, he's writing a book, he's going to write a book, and it's going to be a heavy book. I just finished a book myself, but I don't have the kind of heavy experience that Joey has from his personal stuff. I got some interesting stuff about the Navy.
I want you to
we're going to get to that. But just to answer your question about, yes, I've been spiritual my whole life, and I got to thank my mother and my father. I come from a strict Italian family.
I know where you're coming from.
Martell's my stage name. Really Martamucci. Okay, and my father came over from in the boat in 1910 or something, when the Germans at the time were sinking. 50% of the ships coming over from Italy were getting sunk, and he got on a boat when he was 5 with his mother and a bunch of other relatives from Italy. They had to get out of Italy at the time, and it was worth it for them to take this 50% chance. They got over here, they went Ellis Island he went to. He grew up in Fordham in the Bronx in the tough days. Yeah. And my father was a tough guy. You would never, if you got mad, I don't care how mad you were when you were growing up, you had to say, oh, the heck with this. That was about as bad as it would get, because you don't even try to go further. And everybody in the family, because there was a big family, big Italian family in Fordham, and he was like the guy in charge, because he understood 2 languages. Because at 5 years old, he come over on a boat. He was like the mascot on a boat. He got the 2 languages going. What happened is, I'm yapping away over. All right, let me answer too many questions.
No,
it's beautiful.
But we'll do another show.
Beautiful.
We're going to have to. Let me cut to the chase.
We'll talk about it. My parents are the same.
Let me cut to the chase, because I could get going on this kind of stuff. But I had total respect for my father. You had, like I said, you never disrespect. You didn't smoke. You didn't do nothing until you got old enough to do it. And everybody in the family felt that way about my father. Everybody in the family, total respect for him. And I don't know if my father was connected, because he was Mr. Private. But let me tell you, he knew all the people. Yeah, sure. Okay? But anyway, besides all that, between him and my mother, a great Christian, took us to church every Sunday, me and my sister, and we go speeding down Boston Post Road when it was cobblestones, 40 miles an hour and 47 Chevy, and that's moving when you're on cobblestones. Yeah. And between the 2 of them, they gave me guitar lessons. My sister had beautiful classical piano lessons. We got to church every Sunday. I went to Catholic, elementary Catholic school. It started out with PS 68 in the Bronx. We went to church every Sunday, and that was like, and then we pick up the newspapers, we pick up the Italian bread, and the macaroni and the gravy was cooking from the day before. And man, I'll tell you, I had just a fantastic childhood. I have nothing to say but wonderful things. I had a beautiful childhood, and I thank my mother to this day. I will always thank her for bringing me up in the Lord first. Without even realizing it, became subconscious. And I love being involved with the Lord. I love it. The Lord's my favorite person out of the whole everything, man. Let me tell you. Gave us everything. Again, like I say, my mother, I thank her forever. And my whole family was into that. And my father for the strictness. Because I got in with a couple of crazy guys, too, before I joined the Navy, who was stealing cars. We did a little bit of this, a little bit of that. I could have gotten in big trouble. One friend of mine got shot in the back robbing a gas station, is paralyzed forever. Another guy is dead now that was robbing gas station. I mean, this is the crowd I was hanging with. So thanks to the great upbringing, I got into the Navy. I've always felt I was close to the Lord. And, well, go ahead.
You're in,
We're rocking you. We're rocking. You know, yeah,
Where's my
it's
water?
cool.
I need my water to get
I just just talk a little bit, just for a moment, about the Navy and how somehow that was it because you were seeing a lot of people die then that made you think that about the afterlife at that point.
No. Actually, I didn't see nobody die in the Navy. I was in peacetime.
Oh, okay.
We were in the Cuban crisis. What happened with us is we loaded up the ship. I was at Little Creek Amphibious Base, Norfolk, Virginia. We loaded up, and we knew what was going on. The Russians were coming down here, the Soviets. And every single ship in Little Creek Amphibious Base, there was minesweepers down there. And that's where, like, the Marines and UDT, which I tried out for, UDT, underwater demolition, which is the SEALs now.
Right.
Anyway. Every single person loaded the ship, ammo, guns. Everybody was going down there. We all went down to Chesapeake Bay. We all went down there. We were going down to Cuba. And thanks to Kennedy, he said the right thing. He did the right thing. Right. I'm glad Khrushchev turned around. And let's let the peaceful people in the world and the animals and the live a little bit longer. You don't have to do this big killing everybody. So thanks to Kennedy, I appreciate it. I like his strength. I like his, chutzpah kind of thing like that.
Right. Yeah, as a matter of fact, just recently I resaw the movie 13 Days that talks about the Cuban Missile Crisis. It's amazing how close we really did come to
Absolutely.
just
Absolutely.
But so at what point then, what brought you to really wanting to focus on the afterlife? Because your show Perspectives, your radio show with Peg was all about the afterlife.
Well, again, like to back up with the TV, I got into the TV show, and then we moved. What happened is my folks moved down to South Jersey from New York, and then my father passed away, unfortunately, in '94, as we all do, and I know he's with the Lord. Great person. And my mother was down here alone. And we figured, my wife and I figured, we should, I don't want her to be down here alone. She don't want to move back. She's got her friends. Let's move down there. And number two, it's a little cheaper down in South Jersey than it is in the New York area to live. So we came down, we got ourselves a house. And again, after a little bit of time, I got, looking, what do I want to do as a hobby? Because for me, it's a hobby, radio, TV. It's like a hobby. Okay. So something else to do. It's a cool thing. So because I know so many people in the business, I could have people all the time. So what happened is we saw one of the local radio stations that they were local in the area. Excuse me, they were local in the area. So I approached the owner, and he's a big Fudge fan. And he says, "Hey, come on, I'll sponsor you. Have your own show and like that." So we started a rock show. And we had Joey on, and we played some of his music. We had a lot of, I could give you a litany of a lot of people in the business I had on the shows. Really tremendous. And then I graduated to where I decided, let's do another show on something like this, because a good friend of ours, through thanks again to Joe, Brother Frank Minucci, who was in Carlito's Way, Tony T. Right, that's him. And he was a real mob guy in the heavy sense. And in fact, he would have been a May guy, except that he was half Irish. But anyway, we had him on the show, and I had veterans. And then next thing, thanks to Joey, he introduced us to some other people that really went through some heavy stuff. So I figured, let's get this other show, and let me take a little sip here, if I may. Salute.
It's a great show. It's a great show.
Great
Definitely.
show. We had all these people on, and we started really finding out that, geez, there's a lot of interesting, I mean, that's like the heaviest subject. What happens when you leave the planet? That's the heaviest subject going.
So with the guests that you had on then, because that's really what I'd like to focus, did you have many people come on that described the types of things that Joe was talking about?
Well, we had Brother Frank Minucci has similar type of stuff to what happened with Joey.
He had a near-death experience?
Right, and oh yeah, he died 5 times
Wow,
of some
that's
heart attacks, and he was in the, well, you should get him on, let him talk for
Definitely
himself.
do that.
But yes, he did. He had the kind of experience that Joe had. He had some negative, real scary stuff. He said he's got some scary stuff he didn't even tell anybody yet. That it's kind of heavy to even talk about that stuff, right, Joe?
Absolutely.
If you go through what Joey went through, that's why I got so much respect for him. And we said, a lot of people, we got praying for Joe when he was, because that when you go through something like that, you have to hope, please God, give me another chance. I didn't know life was
Amen.
so serious. And everybody
Amen.
out there that's into let's fool around, sex and drugs, and disrespect the Lord who gave you the sex, people. And so he knows what you like and what's cool to whatever, and everything else in life, that food, don't be gluttonous and that kind of stuff. Every single thing that the Lord gives you, and fresh, and to take care of the animals. They're like God's children. Be good to them. Don't be giving them grief. Don't take advantage of nobody. It's going to come back to you. And if you go through what Joey went through, you better hope that you can come back.
Well said, Vinny.
Right?
Well said.
So what happened is, again, I can elaborate on this stuff, but yes, we did have some people that had that actually died and came back, and we also had some books we read of some other stories. There's a lot of accounts of this.
I remember, yeah.
And I'm glad it's getting, thanks to you, Al, for putting this out in the public forum. People have to think about this. Is the most serious subject in your life. Is what happens when this life finishes and the next one is about to start.
Yeah.
Where do you stand? Do not blow it, because like it says in the Bible too, it ain't money isn't going to buy your way in. Right. Nothing like that. It's you got to store up some treasures in heaven while you're here.
God put eternity in the hearts of men and women.
That's why you want to live forever. We were meant to
Right.
live forever. Unfortunately, things went wrong, and that's why we're in this. And this is a test. This life, to me, anyway, this is my interpretation.
Right, sure. Well,
this is a test. If you pass the test of this life, you did some good. You did more good than you did bad. Yes, everybody makes mistakes and all, but have your heart trying to do the right thing. Try to help people out. Try to help. We go to the hospital sometimes and play for people. Play music for them. We go to other places, we'll say some prayers for them. Do some good for somebody, because it's only going to benefit you. It makes you feel good. And besides, don't be doing mob and all this kind of thing. That's cool, because let me tell you, these cats, I got some relatives of mine that are still connected, and they're always doing this. All right, looking behind their shoulder. You ain't gonna have no peace of mind. It don't matter if you got a big fancy car. You can get it at any time. You're dealing with people that are making decisions. You do something wrong, that's the end of you. No, deal with the Lord that gave Joey another chance, gave Brother Frank another chance, and gave a lot of people another chance, because he loves us and he wants us all to live forever and have a beautiful that we can't even experience in this realm.
Well,
Amen.
the whole purpose
Well
of my show, The Bridge of
Thank
Truth,
you. I'm glad you're doing this.
is to give people like yourself, I mean, regardless of the point of view, if you're expressing something that's going to be positive, that's going to at least give anybody that's out there that connects to your particular message and hears you say it, they're going to say, well, you know what, if Vince Martell and Joey Brennan and Peg Pearl can change their lives and get committed in this way, then so can I. And Joe's an example, you know, and we've all been there to some certain extent, facing the personal demons. And now your show is called Perspectives, and so what I want to do is I want to take a break now and get the perspective of your lovely wife, because she was half of the team that did the show, and I wanted to come on, and then a little bit after that, then you guys are going to treat us to a performance, and I'm really
That's
excited
wonderful,
about
man.
it.
That's
Thank you very much, Al.
Yeah.
It's a
All right.
pleasure, bro.
So let's take
Thank you.
we're going to take a little break, but we'll be right back. I'm so happy to have you here. I mentioned that you're Vince's other half, and in life and in professionally, and with the show. And I know you guys. You can see Vinny has his guitar, so you guys are going to play some songs. But before you do that, please tell me a little bit about your feelings about near-death experiences, and perhaps a little bit about what you gained from doing your show.
Yes, before I talk a little bit about the show, I'll be brief. My first experience with an NDE was actually from my dad.
Wow.
When he was 7 years old, my grandfather had boats. They always had boats out on Long Island. And my dad was a young boy, and he didn't have a life vest on. And they were getting on the little boat that he had. It was a little 20-foot sailboat that my grandfather had. My dad fell in between the pier and the boat. And my grandfather couldn't get him. So my dad started sinking very quickly because he didn't know how to swim yet. Wow. And he said that he was so peaceful, and all of a sudden he saw this lady that was like staring at him, and he felt so calm, but he was dying, he was drowning. And he said all the while he kept going down, and he was watching all the sights, and he said he never felt as if he were suffocating. Something in his brain had switched into this other mode where he could still be alert and not be panicked. And all of a sudden, my grandfather got him, and he got pulled out. But that was my first experience in life with an NDE, because he was already, when my grandfather pulled him out, he wasn't breathing. They started CPR. So that was my first experience. And but the show, Life After Death, NDEs, we thought it would be something fascinating to talk with artists and musicians.
Right.
Because in talking to people, especially because of Joe Brennan, we realized a lot of people we know actually had NDEs. In fact, we did a production in San Diego with Ben Vereen, and we met many musicians. There was Buddy Miles, Strawberry Alarm Clock. We met this one vocalist, Earl Thomas. We were at the airport with him, and we noticed on the back of his jacket he had the Virgin of the Guadalupe. So I asked him,
Amazing.
Why do you have Guadalupe on your back? He told us this entire story, how his car went over a cliff and tumbled, and he was all the way at the bottom of this gully. Nobody saw him. It was at night. And he managed to... After he fell, he realized he was dying because he couldn't breathe. And all of a sudden he started seeing somebody on the other side, like this. He saw the light. And this, he said, please, he says, I want to get back home. I want to get to my car. And this person told him, just, you have the strength. You can do it. You can climb back up. So he came back into consciousness, but he felt like he had died and he had seen something. And he crawled back all the way up. And he said from that day on, he was very spiritually aware of everything, and nothing that he took anything for granted. Everything he did, he knew had a purpose in his life. But you start talking to people and you realize.
That's amazing.
I know. So that was one of the catalysts, actually, for us. And, of course, we had Brother Frank Minucci, who died many times and saw he had many different experiences. There are varieties and different forms.
Well, those of you that have been following the Bridge of Truth for some time, you realize that the whole purpose of my show is to try to find the common ground between religion and science, and it seems more and more science is trying to dismiss or disprove or find ways to deny anything that's non-physical, anything that exists beyond the known elements, the known laws of physics. And my goal with the work that I've done, I spent 12 years writing a book
and you were
on
our show. We actually had your
is not to say that they're wrong, but to try to say that their view is still incomplete. And how can you dismiss the types of experiences that people have had, like Joe, where the science, the medicine, is that these people were dead. That if it wasn't for perhaps a fraction of a second of extra work on the guy or the girl, that they would
have been over.
Exactly. Right. So my feeling is that it is incomplete, and there has to be a way to find an explanation. I believe that there is one that allows for both views to coexist, that they're not mutually exclusive.
Exactly.
That the scientific position does not exclude a faith-based position, and neither should a faith-based position exclude the scientific truth that clearly we cannot deny. I mean, and every day that scientific truth becomes more and more clear and established.
Exactly, and what greater mind than Albert Einstein's? And he said the more he searched for knowledge and tried to explain the universe, the the more he realized that there's a God.
Yeah, well, I don't completely know the quote, but yeah, there was just too many unanswered questions. And so, Vince, I know you guys are going to play, but I'd like to give you an opportunity to share any last thoughts you have before you start.
Just on what everybody's been talking about, I feel that the Lord created the whole thing. So all the science, sure, the science is all true. It's the Lord made it. He put it all together. We're going, as man is evolving through time, we're figuring it out, like electricity and everything. We found out, oh, yeah, but the Lord had it all there. Well, so I don't discount no science, but the Lord is the main creator behind the science.
Right. If you think about everything that man has created in this world, there's nothing that I can say that he has created that doesn't already exist in some template in the universe. I don't think there's anything totally original that man could ever create. So there has to be a designer that allows us to imitate what's out there.
Yeah, and I've kind of taken that position in terms of the idea of the infinite field, and some of the philosophers, the scientific philosophers that talk about the the quantum field and what exactly is consciousness, and is it simply how you define it that perhaps separates the scientific from calling infinite consciousness God or whatever.
Exactly.
You wanna.
Sure.
So, but I know also that you wanted to say something about the veterans.
I just wanted to thank all the veterans out there for in the U.S. of A. for the wars that they fought, for standing up for our freedom. People who have died, who we don't even know with his nameless graves. I want to thank them, their families, the current people that are serving, the people that have gotten injured, and everybody that's willing to stand up for the U.S. of A. Thank you, and God bless you. You did a wonderful thing. It's a wonderful free country, and thanks to these mediums that, like Al is doing here with the show, that we can express to everybody out there. So if anybody's in other countries looking, that's what it's all about. The Lord wants freedom for everybody. In fact, if you get involved with the Lord and with the Bible, what is the whole gist of it? Freedom. So you're not bound and hung to anything. The Lord has a wonderful plan, and I just want to really thank all the veterans again. God bless you. Thank you. I salute you.
Great. Really appreciate both of you guys being on. Now I'm going to have Joe come back. He's going to take my chair, and you're going to perform some songs, and perhaps I'll have a minute at the end to just close things out. So here we go. Vince,
Thanks,
Peg, and Joe.
Here's a song, a Roger Whittaker song that I did, and I had an opportunity to do a cruise back in 1995. The Caribbean. It was a beautiful cruise, and on the ship I got a chance to work with an authentic Irishman from County Donegal, Ireland. Mike Carroll, his name was. He was very good. He had done the Queen Mary cruises and all this kind of stuff across the ocean. And through a friend of mine, Rusty Blades, I got a chance to get on and do this cruise, and it was a little paid vacation. It was one of the tunes that we did. There's a ship lies rigged and ready in the harbor tomorrow for old England, she says. Far away from your land of endless sunshine, to my land full of rainy skies and gale. I shall be on board that ship tomorrow, though my heart is full of tears at this farewell. For you are beautiful, and I have loved you dearly, more dearly than the spoken word can tell. I'm going to pick it up a little bit here. Now I heard that there is a wicked world so very well. Even now I can see the foreign flags a-raising. Their guns on fire as we sail into hell. I have no fear of death, it brings no sorrow. But how bitter will be this last farewell. For you are beautiful, and I have loved you dearly, more dearly than a spoken word can tell. For you are beautiful, and I have loved you dearly, more dearly than the spoken word can tell. Though death and darkness gathered all about me, and my ship be torn apart upon the sea, still I shall smell the fragrance of these islands, and the heaving waves that brought me once to thee. Should I return home safe again to England, shall watch the English mist roll through the day. For you are beautiful, and I have loved you dearly, more dearly than the spoken word can tell. For you are beautiful, and I have loved you dearly, more dearly than the spoken word can tell. Yeah.
Excellent.
Thank you. Okay, right now let's do a little bit of, since we love the Lord and what He's given us and everything, let's do a prayer for the Lord and for everybody who's lost their father out there also. The Lord's Prayer. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, you to the good Lord for everything we have. And we could do it right now. We should do a little bit of a song that we did in the Vanilla Fudge. People, you guys, get ready.
And we'd like to dedicate this to the memory of a great Vanilla Fudge producer who just passed, the great Shadow Morton.
Yeah.
Right. Mr. Shadow Morton passed this past Valentine's Day, and just a wonderful, fantastic, talented producer who made the Vanilla Fudge.
People get ready. People get ready.
Well, I said, people get ready, 'cause there's a train coming, taking up passengers from
Coast to coast.
all you need is faith to hear the diesel's coming. You don't need no ticket, you just
Get on board.
People get ready, there's a train coming, taking up passengers from
Coast to coast.
all you need is faith to hear the diesel's coming. You don't need no baggage, you just
Thank the Lord.
yeah. There ain't no room for a holy sinner. Gotta hurt all mankind just to
Save his own.
have pity on those whose chances grow thinner. And there's hope for all along the kingdom throne. There ain't no room for the holy sinner. Gotta hurt all mankind just to save his own. Have pity on those whose chances go thinner. 'Cause there's hope for all among the
Kingdom throne.
yeah. That's all you gotta do. You don't need no ticket. You just thank the That's all you got to do. Thank them.
Excellent.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Al, for having us on.
This has been absolutely incredible. I was in the other room listening to it. It was really quite good. And so I want to thank all my guests and thank you, the viewer, and hopefully our show benefited you in some way. And as I'd like to say in closing, till the next time we meet, may all your journeys be truthful on the bridge of truth.
God bless you, everybody. Thank
Praise
you.
God, man.